Hello friends, welcome to Time Classes. In this lecture, we are going to discuss some current affairs as well as some concepts and current affairs related to the economy and the banking concept. So let's get started. So the first question that you have on the screen is, what is India's fiscal deficit in 2019 and 20, which is a percentage of gross domestic product, against a target of 3.8%. Right. You should know what fiscal deficit is. Fiscal deficit is when the government's expenditure is more than the government's revenue. That is what fiscal deficit is. And as of yet, India's fiscal deficit in 2019, has been around 4.5% as compared to the target of 3.8%, right? So this is something that you should know. Okay. The next question that we have is, as per the latest data from the World Federation of Exchanges, what is Bombay Stock Exchange's position among the world's most valued exchanges? Is it 1, 18, or is it 2, 27, is it 9, or is it 10, or is it 15? Let us try and understand a few things. Bombay Stock Exchange is actually at the 10th place, and it has a market capitalization of $1.7 trillion. I repeat, it has a market capitalization of $1.7 trillion, right? The company that tops the chart is actually the stock exchange that tops the chart is the New York Stock Exchange, and it has a market capitalization of $19.3 trillion. Let me repeat once again, it is $19.3 trillion, right? Nasdaq comes second with a market capitalization of $13.8 trillion. Let me repeat it once again. It is $13.8 trillion, right? BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange, you should know, is the first listed stock exchange of India, and is one of the country's leading exchange groups. Apart from that, we have the NSE, which is National Stock Exchange, and Bombay Stock Exchange has close to 5 crore registered investors. So that's the thing. So it is benchmarked by Standard & Poor's BSE and Sensex, so the index is BSE Sensex. That is also something that you should know, right? Then this list also includes Tokyo Stock Exchange, which was placed at the third position, and it has a market valuation of $5.7 trillion. It has a market valuation of $5.7 trillion. And then it is followed by Shanghai Stock Exchange, which has a market capitalization of around $4.9 trillion. So Shanghai Stock Exchange has a market capitalization of around $4.9 trillion. Then at the 5th position, we have Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and it has a market valuation or capitalization of $4.4 trillion. It is then followed by Euronext, which has a market capitalization of $3.9 trillion. Then it is followed by Shenzhen Stock Exchange, which has a market capitalization of around $3.5 trillion. And then it is followed by London Stock Exchange, which has a market capitalization of around $3.2 trillion, right? At the 9th position is Toronto Stock Exchange, which has a market capitalization of around $2.1 trillion, right? There are many factors governing, the market capitalization scenario. It also has to do with how much of the economy, how much of trading and economy is opened by the government, right? So if India stands at 10th position, it's actually a good position given the fact that the government has a very protectionist attitude as far as our economy and the financial markets are concerned, which is actually a good thing. that during 2008 and 2009 we did not see a lot of wealth being wiped out from our country, right? And which is actually a good thing. And slowly and gradually, as we are becoming more and more capable of taking risks, the government is also opening up our economy. So that's also a thing, right? So in this case, the answer is fourth, which is 10th. The answer is fourth, which is 10th, right? Let's come to the next question. Now, the Reserve Bank of India is conducting a 1 year and 3 year tenure LTRO to help banks reduce their lending rates, or is it to reduce the non-performing assets, or is it to recapitalize banks, or do you think it's 1 and 2 factors, or is it 1, 2 and 3, all the 3 factors, or is it 2 and 3 only? Now, what is LTRO? LTRO is long-term financing operation. What is the full form of LTRO? It is long-term financing operation, right? So under LTRO, RBI will conduct term repos and of 1 year and 3 year tenure of appropriate size for up to a total amount of rupees 1 lakh crore at the policy repo rate, right? So that is what the RBI is going to do, right? So why did the RBI introduce LTRO? There are many factors related to that. RBI introduced LTRO with a view to assuring banks about the availability of durable liquidity at reasonable cost relating to prevailing market conditions, and to further encourage banks to undertake maturity transformation smoothly and seamlessly so as to augment credit flows to productive sectors. So those which are the productive sectors, banks then will be able to lend them more amount of money. RBI said they will conduct LTRO from the fourth beginning on February 15th at the policy rate. So it is basically a measure that market participants expect will bring down short-term rates and also boost investment in corporate bonds, right? These measures, coupled with RBI's earlier introduced Operation Twist, are an attempt by the central bank to manage bond yields and push transmission of earlier cuts, right? So that's the thing. And the market analysts are really very happy. They think that it is RBI's master stroke, and they're really praising the RBI governor, who is Mr. Shaktikanta Das, right? So that's the thing, right? So here the answer is LTRO is being introduced to help banks reduce their lending rates. Okay, na? So that's the thing. Roshni Nadar Malhotra, India's wealthiest woman, has recently been appointed chairperson of, is it Shapuri Palonji Group? Is it TCS? You think it is the Adani Group? Or is it SCL Technologies, or it is ITC? Well, Roshni Nadar Malhotra, she happens to be the daughter of Mr. Shiv Nadar, who is the founder of SCL Technologies, and she is the only child of SCL's founder, Mr. Shiv Nadar, right? And she has been appointed a chairperson of HCL Technologies, and she also happens to be the first woman, to lead a listed IT company in India. So that's also a great achievement, as far as she's concerned, right? So in 2019, when Forbes conducted a research, they did a ranking of 100 most powerful women in the world, right? Mrs. Roshni Nadar Malhotra was ranked 54th in that particular list, right? And according to the IIFL Wealth Hurun India Rich List 2019, Roshni Nadar happens to be the richest woman in India, right? She grew up in Delhi, studied, at the Vasant Valley School in Delhi, and then she graduated from Northwestern University. And, she was actually a major in communications, and she had a focus on radio, TV, film, etc. But then she went on to do her master's in business administration, from Kellogg's School of Management. So that is what that is who Mrs. Roshni Nadar Malhotra is. Shaprooji Pallonji is in the business of construction. It's not in an IT company. TCS also is an IT company, and it has a bigger market capitalization as compared to HCL Technologies. Adani is in multiple things. It is in construction, it is in housing, it is in energy, and it has, it is in petroleum and all as well. And if you go to many states, especially like Gujarat, even in Haryana, you'll find Adani petrol pumps and all out there as well. So that's Adani for you. And ITC again is a conglomerate that has multiple interests, right? It's in cigarettes, it's in noodles, it's in food actually, and it has a lot of other lifestyle and all as well. ITC is branched into many different businesses. So here the right answer is she has been elected as a chairperson of HCL Technologies. So that's it. The next question says, which country has recently announced that it would bar telecom companies from purchasing new equipment made by China's Huawei Technologies company for the 5G networks? Right. In this case, the right answer is the United Kingdom. Right. It has asked its mobile providers, from buying any new Huawei 5G equipment after 31st of December. And they must also remove all the Chinese firms' 5G kit from the network by 2027. That is in the next 7 years, right? Now these Washingtons, they follow the sanctions, imposed by Washington. These sanctions, these kind of initiatives by the UK government, they follow the sanctions imposed by the Washington. And Huawei is actually owned by the Chinese Communist Party, and according to the UK government and Mr. Dowden, who happens to be the digital secretary as well, Mr. Oliver Dowden, they fear that Huawei's 5G networks, they can prove to be a security threat, because then China will be able to easily spy on UK and the people of the United Kingdom. So that's the thing, right? 5G actually promises faster internet connections, but then they can be a huge cost as well, right? So that's the thing, right? So that's the thing. Anyway, let's move further. So here the right answer is UK. Now the headquarters of EBRD is located in, is it in Berlin? Is it in Geneva? Is it in London? And do you think it is in Paris, or is it in Brussels? What is the EBRD? EBRD is European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. It is EBRD. Now it's an international financial institution. It was actually founded in 1991, and it is a multilateral development investment bank. That's the thing, and it uses investment as a tool to build market economies, right? Initially focused on the countries, of the former Eastern bloc that joined the European Union and all. It expanded to support development in more than 30 countries from Central Europe to Central Asia, right? So EBRD has members from all over the world: North America, Africa, Asia, and Australia, right? And its biggest shareholder actually happens to be the United States, but only lends regionally in its countries of operations, right? So that's also a thing. And the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, it's headquartered in London, right? And it is owned by 69 countries and 2 European Union institutions, right? That's the thing. The 69th being India. So India joined the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD, only in 2018. India was not a member before that, right? Despite its public shareholders, it invests in private enterprises together with commercial partners. So that is EBRD for you, right? Please do not confuse EBRD with European Investment Bank, which is owned by European Union member states and is used to support the European Union policy. Right. EBRC is also distinct from the Council of European Development Bank, which is CEB. So EBRD, which is European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, that is different from European Investment Bank, EIB, and it is also different from CEB, which is the Council of European Development Bank, Council for European Development Bank. Right. So that's the thing. So the current acting president is Mr. Jürgen Rigtering. Mr. Jürgen Rigtering, Jurgen Rigtering. Mr. Jürgen Rigtering. Right. So that's the thing. Okay. So here the right answer is EBRD is located in London. Which of the following options is the most suitable for Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices? CACP. Now, Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices is actually a decentralized agency of the government of India. It is not governed at a centralized position, right? It was established in 1965, and earlier it was called as Agricultural Prices Commission, right? And then it was given the present name of Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices, which is CACP, only in 1985, right? And it is under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, right? Now, the commission was established, to recommend minimum support prices, MSPs, to motivate cultivators and farmers to adopt the latest technology in order to optimize the use of resources and increase productivity, right? As of now, CACP recommends minimum support prices of 23 commodities, and which happen to be 7 cereals. What are cereals? Things like paddy, wheat, sorghum, pearl millet, barley, and ragi. And then 5 pulses as well, which are gram, tur, moong, urad, and lentil. Lentil dals are very tasty. You should try it sometime. It also governs, establishes the MSPs, minimum support prices, for 7 oil seeds. And the 7 oil seeds are groundnut, rapeseed, mustard, soybean, sesame, then sunflower as well, safflower as well, SAFFLOWER, safflower, and Niger seed as well, NIGER SEED. It has 4 commercial crops as well: copra, sugarcane, cotton, and raw jute, right? So that's the thing. So basically, if we talk about CACP, it recommends minimum support prices for agricultural crops, right? That's what CACP does. It does not determine cultivation areas for various crops across the country or anything else like that, or it doesn't determine export prices of various agricultural commodities. Neither it's a procurement agency of rice, wheat, or pulses, or anything else for that matter, right? So answer is 3 in this case. Then the next question we have is, which of the following places was scheduled to host the 44th session of the World Heritage Committee, right? So the World Heritage Committee, it kind of designates certain monuments as a heritage monument and so on and so forth, right? So every year they have different committees which are set up in different areas. And the 44th session of the World Heritage Committee was, it was scheduled to be hosted in Fuzhou, China. FUZHOU, Fuzhou, China, which is option number 2 in this case. Fuzhou, China, right? So that's the thing. Now, India, what is India's position in terms of the holding of US government securities in April 2020 end? Now, US government, why would India, which happens to be a developing country, hold US government securities? I think, that is the first question that should come to your mind. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to current affairs, when it comes to, general knowledge questions and all, it is vital that we go through the theory we try and understand the story behind anything, so that it really becomes very easy to remember them. So the point is, India exports a lot to the US, and it's a free market based economy. Nowadays the world economy is a free market based economy. Even the currency market is a free free market, which depends on gold, which depends on supply and demand of currency in the currency market. We are no more dependent on the Bretton Woods gold standard. That has been removed now. I think you should know about that. Now, if India continues to export a lot to the US, then the value of a currency will increase. And if the value of a currency increases, then the exports will become costly. If the exports become costly, right, then in that case, nobody would want India's products, right? So that's one thing that we should keep in mind. Now, what happens is, the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, they conduct a lot of operations. For example, open market operations, is done when in the open market, the RBI will purchase the US currency, and in order to purchase US currency, it has to supply the rupee, because of which the value of rupee comes down. The other thing that what the Indian RBI can do is, or the Indian government can do is, they can buy US government securities. So when they go about buying US government securities, they buy it with Indian rupee. So the supply of Indian rupee increases in the market, because of which the value of Indian rupee comes down, right? And as a matter of security, they also get to hold US government securities. And because the value of Indian currency comes down, our exports become cheaper. And when our exports become cheaper, they become a more viable option for the countries abroad to purchase them. So that is one huge advantage, right? Now, if I have to talk about India's position in terms of the holding of US government securities in April 2020 end, India actually became the 12th largest holder of US government securities at the end of April, with holding worth $157.4 billion. How much India holds US securities? It is worth $157.4 billion, right? Earlier, India was at the 13th position, and Saudi Arabia was at the 12th position with, and they had they were holding assets worth, or US government securities worth $159.1 billion US dollars, right? But recently they have lowered their position, right? And now they hold only $125.3 billion. So that's also a thing. And Saudi Arabia has now actually slipped to 15th position, right? As of this April end, Japan remains the country with the maximum exposure, at US dollars $1.266 trillion. How much exposure does Japan has? Close to $1.266 trillion, right? So that's pretty huge. And after Japan is followed by China, which has close to $1.073 trillion. $1.073 trillion. Japan is now actually trying to diversify as well, and as you can see, Japan has given huge loans to India as well. So that's also one thing. The same thing is being done by China, and it is trying to diversify its investments in like One Road, One Border, One Road project, CPEC in Pakistan. It has bought a lot of assets in Europe, a lot of assets in Africa. Basically, they're trying to reduce their exposure to the US government securities and the risks that can be associated with this. Incidentally, we also become, the biggest lenders to the United States government by holding on to the government securities, because at the end of the day, the government, US government is then bound to return this money to us, right? China is then followed by the United Kingdom, which is $368.5 billion, right? So that's the thing. So UK is at the third position. At the fourth position is Ireland. It has close to $300 billion, which is followed by Luxembourg, $265.5 billion. Then Brazil, which has $259.6 $0.5 billion, and Hong Kong, which has close to $242 billion. Then we have Switzerland, it has a holding of around $241.3 billion. Belgium, which has a holding of around $210 billion, and Cayman Islands, which has around $206.8 billion. And then it is followed by Taiwan, which has around $201.7 billion. Now, India's $157.4 billion would not seem to be that great an amount as compared to the other figures that I have just quoted. This is not a bad thing. This also shows that a lot of investments actually goes into developing our economy, our country, into building infrastructure, into building our military and everything else, right? So this exposure is not really a great thing. Most of the names that I have mentioned are already developed countries, right? Taiwan is a very small country. It's already developed. It has a huge export market. Asus and many other brands, they tend to export to India, computers and laptops and smartphones and so on and so forth. Belgium, Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Hong Kong, Luxembourg, Ireland, UK, they're all developed countries, right? So that's also one thing. Japan is a developed country. China has a very curious case now. What China does is, China today is the largest exporter in the world, but it keeps buying US currencies in order to lower the value of yuan or renminbi in order to remain competitive in the international market. Incidentally, China's economy has become strong, and at least if you talk about the minimum lifestyle of the Chinese, that has grown. But then China also is particularly a communist country, and it does not really allow that free a market within China, right? Because of which the wealth does not get distributed to the Chinese people, unlike India, where the wealth actually gets distributed to the Indian people. So there's a huge difference between these two things, right? So here essentially the answer is fifth, which is 12. So India's position in terms of the holding of the US government securities in April 2020 end is fifth, which is 12th rank, right? So that's the thing. Now, what is the base here for consumer price index numbers for agricultural laborers and rural laborers? So what is the base here? So when it comes to consumer price index, the base here is usually considered to be 1986 and 87, and they give this base year as 100 as a value. And as of month of May 2020, the consumer price index numbers for agricultural laborers has increased by 5 points, and that of rural laborers has actually increased by 6 points. And the consumer price index numbers for agricultural laborers stands at 1019, and that of rural laborers, it stands at 1025 points respectively, right? So the major contribution towards the rise in general index of agricultural laborers and rural laborers that came from food, which contributed close to 4.44 points, and then 4.7 points respectively. And 4.44 is for the consumer price index numbers for agricultural laborers, and 4.7 point is for the agricultural laborers, consumer price index for the rural laborers, right? And this rise has been mainly due to the rise in the price of rice, arhar dal, masoor dal, groundnut, oil, meat, goat meat, poultry, vegetables and fruits and all as well, right? So that's the thing. So here the right answer is 1986 to 87, which is the base year for consumer price index numbers for agricultural laborers and rural laborers respectively, right? So that's the thing. Let's move to the next question. So DASH stands for providing various services in relation to capital market and financing the corporate sector. Is it 1, general banking? Is it 2, retail banking? Is it 3, is it merchant banking? Or is it 4, smart banking? Or do you think it is capital banking? So basically general banking, is considered as a direct service customer service center. So the general banking department of most of the banks. It is the starting point of all the banking operations, like opening new accounts, remit funds, on a check, take deposits, issue bank draft, and pay order, right? So that's what general banking, is done. Now, retail banking, is very close to general banking, and it's a way for individual consumers to manage their money, have access to credit, and deposit their money in a secure manner. Services offered by retail banks include checking and saving accounts, mortgages, personal loans, right, credit cards, and certificates of deposits, which are CDs. Third option we have merchant banking. So merchant banking essentially, conducts underwriting of loans, services, financial advising, fundraising, like IPOs or private placements, right, for large corporations and high net worth individuals as well. High net worth individuals are the people who have a lot of money, so rich people. So unlike retail or commercial banks, merchant banks do not provide services to the general public. Then we have smart banking. Smart banking basically is, like you have in Kotak Mahindra Bank, you have Talk to Kia. So, like through video, you are able to do your KYC. Now you can just log in through your phone. The computer talks to you. The computer tends to handle your banking queries and all. These are all examples of smart banking. So smart banking means a more intelligent approach to customer service. Right, it takes a virtual, for example, take the virtual greeter, service that tends to greet you, or gives customers access to multiple products from an in-branch kiosk or from a mobile device, right? So that's basically smart banking. In fact, ICICI Bank has introduced a lot of smart banking in the sense now that you can deposit money, directly through these smart kiosks, and you need not access the banks from the inside. So that's also one thing. Then we have capital banking, and capital banking basically refers to portfolio management, right? Basically for it acts like a private wealth banker to the high net worth individuals, so it offers more sophisticated services to the wealthy customers, so that's what capital banking essentially is, right? So here merchant banking stands for providing various services in relation to capital market and financing the corporate sector. So that is your merchant banking. Okay, let's move ahead, everybody. The next question that we have is, which of the following organizations has kept Pakistan in the grey list as the country failed to check the flow of funds to terror groups, right? Let's first understand the different organizations that are mentioned here. Interpol actually stands for the International Criminal Police Organization, and it facilitates worldwide police cooperation and crime control. So Abu Salim and many of the criminals, they have been arrested with the help of Interpol, in India. Like as far as I remember, Abu Salim was in Portugal, in Lisbon, and then the Interpol informed the Indian government, and then the Indian government gave notice to Interpol to arrest him, and then he was extradited to India. So that is Interpol. FATF is an interesting organization, and the financial task its full form is the Financial Action Task Force, so that's what it is, and it's an intergovernment, again, organizational. It was founded in 1989 on the initiative of the G7, to develop policies to combat money laundering. So money laundering means money moves from one organization to the next, and the governments have no trail of these money, this money movement. And through this money laundering and all, a lot of terrorist activities and criminal activities are actually financed, right? So in 2001, its mandate was expanded to include terrorism financing as well, right? FATF. Then we have SIPRI, which is Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, which is SIPRI. It's an international institute once again, and it is based in Stockholm. It was founded in 1966, right? SIPRI was ranked among the top 3 non-US world think tanks. think tanks in 2014 actually, and it was ranked by the University of Pennsylvania Lauder Institute. So that's what SIPRI is. SIPRI has built its reputation and standing on competence and professional skills and collection of hard data and precise facts, right, rendering accessible impartial information on weapons development, arm transfers and production, military expenditure, as well as on arms limitations, reductions and disarmament. So basically SIPRI works towards peace. It advocates disarmament, reduction of military expenditure, and non-development of military equipment. That is what SIPRI does. So the task of the institute is to conduct scientific research on questions of conflict and cooperation of importance for international peace. So it works for international peace and security with the aim of contributing to an understanding of the conditions for peaceful solutions of international conflicts and for a stable peace. So basically it works for peace. Then we have RSF. RSF stands for Reporters Without Borders, and it's an international non-profit and non-governmental organization that safeguards the rights to freedom of information. So that is RSF for you. Right, so that's the thing. So now if you talk about Pakistan, it received another extension on the grey list. So it's in the grey list, because a lot of terror financing happens within its border. Why the extension? Because the Financial Action Task Force plenary session, when they decided to continue all countries under scrutiny for terror financing and money laundering until October 2020. Right. So till 2020, Pakistan and many other countries would continue to be on the grey list. But Islamabad or Pakistan actually face a lot of setbacks as well, right, on other fronts. For example, United States slammed Pakistan for its record on terrorism, and it also criticized United States also criticized Pakistan for its failure to act against groups like Lashkar-e-Toiba and and JEM. So these organizations, they kind of sent terrorists. They are mainly responsible for terrorist activities within India, and it also received a US veto against its joint effort with China to list an Indian engineer on the UN Security Council's 1267 list. So basically China and Pakistan were trying to show that an Indian engineer is responsible for terrorist activities, but US vetoed the move. So that's actually a great achievement for India. So the point here is FATF, right, has kept Pakistan in the grey list as the country failed to check flow of funds to terror groups. And as of now, it is going to be in the grey list till October 2020. Right. So that's the thing. Then we have Khadi and Village Industries Commission, KVIC has procured sandalwood saplings for Fragrance and Flavor Development Center, FFDC, to develop commercial plantation. FFDC is located in. Well, if you talk about Fragrance and Flavor Development Center, it was actually set up in 1991, right, under the Ministry of Medium and Small Medium, Manufacturing Enterprises, right. The aim of FFDC is to serve as an interface, between essential oil, fragrance and flavor industry and the research and development institutes, both in the field of agrotechnology and chemical technology, right. So that's the thing. So the main objective of FFDC is to serve, sustain and upgrade the status of farmers and industry engaged in aromatic cultivation, जो खुशबू देती है, aromatic, aroma, it's a beautiful smell, and its processing, so as to make them competitive both in local and global market. So perfumes and many other things, like home fragrance, bathroom fragrance, toilet fragrance and all, that's actually a huge market, and mostly European countries are a dominant force in this particular market, right. So the point here is FFDC is located in Kannauj, which is in Uttar Pradesh. Then the next question that we have on is the Niti Aayog and the International Transport Forum (ITF). They have recently jointly launched the Decarbonizing Transport in Emerging Economies in India, which is the parent organization of the ITF, right? So let's first understand about Niti Aayog. It is an organization that replaced the Planning Commission of India, National Institution for Transforming India. That is the full form of NITI, National Institution for Transforming India. वो हिंदी वाला नीति मत समझना आप, ठीक है ना? So that is what Niti Aayog is, right? And it's a policy think tank of the government of India, right? And its aim is to achieve sustainable development goals with cooperative federalism. That is, states and the central government should both work together in fostering the involvement of, in fostering the economic policy making process, using a bottom-up approach, So bottom-up approach kya hai? We'll first focus on improving the lifestyles of the poor people, and then we'll take it forward to, the people who are actually richer, right? It was founded in January 2015, Niti Aayog, right? And the chairperson happens to be the Prime Minister of India, and currently the chairperson is Mr. Narendra Modi, right? Now, ITF, International Transport Forum, it is an intergovernment organization, within Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So it is an organization within OECD, right? And it is the only global body with a mandate for all modes of transport. It acts as a think tank for transport policy issues and organizes the annual global summit of transport ministers, right? So ITF is actually, the headquarters is in Paris, France, right? Niti is in New Delhi. That is something I guess you should already know. Now OECD, or the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, it is again an intergovernmental economic organization, and it has about 37 member countries. It was founded in 1961, and the purpose is to stimulate economic progress and world trade, right? So its focus is on world trade, right? The headquarters is in Paris, France. It was set up, as I said, 1961, right? The current Secretary General of OECD is Jose Angel Guerra. That's right, it's Jose Angel Guerra, Guria, Jose, Jose, Angel, Angel, and then you have Guria, Guerra. And the founders of OECD are the United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, and other countries and all as well, right? Then we have World Economic Forum, and World Economic Forum, it has its headquarters in Switzerland, and to be more specific, in Switzerland it has its headquarters in Geneva, and to be more specific, in Geneva it has its headquarters in Cologne, Cologny, Cologne, right? It was founded by Klaus Schwab, Schwab. So it was founded by Klaus, 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 and Schwab, Schwab, right? And and WEF is committed to improving the state of the world by engaging business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industrial agenda. So World Economic Forum works on multiple aspects and not just on economic and business, right? So basically its goal is to improve the state of the world, right? And when you mention such a thing, it can include many things, right? So that's the thing. Then we have WIPO, very lesser known organization, WIPO, WIPO, in the third option. WIPO stands for World Intellectual Property Organization. It is one of the 15 specialized agencies of the United Nations, right? And WPO's activities, include hosting forums to discuss and shape international intellectual property rights rules, IP rules, right? And policies, and it provides is meant for providing global services that register and protect IP in different countries, and it's also involved in resolving transboundary IP disputes, helping connect IP systems, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the thing. So so the headquarters of WIPO, that is World Intellectual Property Organization. So the headquarters of WIPO is in Switzerland, and within Switzerland it is in Geneva, Switzerland. It was founded in 1967, if you wish to know that as well. So it was founded in 1967, WIPO. And the current CEO of WIPO is Francis Gurry. Gurry, Francis Gurry. Right. So that's the thing. Then we have NATO as well. I forgot about option 4, NATO. So NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? Or it's also called as North Atlantic Alliance, right? But NATO is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Again, it's an intergovernmental, but it's a military alliance, not any other alliance. So military alliance of 30 North American and European countries, right? And so the organization implements the North Atlantic Treaty that was signed on 4th of April 1949 after World War II, right? So it was founded in 1949. It's headquartered in its headquarters is in Washington D.C., United States, right? The current Secretary General is Mr. Jens Stoltenberg, Stoltenberg, Jens, Jens. Then we have Stoltenberg, 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 right? So that's the thing. That's the Secretary General. And the chairman of the NATO Military Committee is Air Chief Marshal Stuart Peach. Stuart Peach, Peach, right? And the founders of NATO is, of course, United States, France, United Kingdom, Italy, Canada, and so on and so forth, right? So ITF's present parent organization is OECD, which is option 2. I hope you're able to understand this. Okay, let's move forward. Then June 26 is observed as, right? It is observed as, what is it observed as? It is observed as the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, right? So the purpose of this day is to make people aware about this, right? So that's the thing. Then we also have World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. This is observed on June 15th. Please remember, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is observed on June 15, and basically they want to make people aware against the kind of abuses the elderly people have to face. Abuses as in neglect, and they can be many, so they have to suffer a lot. So their sufferings and all, and abuses that they have to face, that the older generation has to be, is inflicted upon, that is exposed to the world, right? So that's also the thing. Then we have International Day of Family Remittances. This is observed on June 16th. On June 16th, it is International Day of Family Remittances is observed. And basically it recognizes the financial contribution made by 250 million migrant workers, to sustain international development, right? Then we have International Day of Parliamentarianism, right? So International Day of Parliamentarianism is celebrated on or observed on June 30th, right? So it's observed on June 30th. So this day celebrates parliaments and the way in which parliamentary systems of government improve the day-to-day lives, the world over. When you talk about the parliament system, it has more to do with democratic form of governments. It is also an opportunity for parliaments to take stock, identify challenges and ways to address them effectively, right? So that's also one thing. So so in the previous case, June 26 is observed as the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. Then the next question that we have is, what is India's position at the end of 2019 in terms of money parked by its citizens and enterprises with Swiss banks, as per latest data released by the Swiss National Bank, the Central Bank of Switzerland. So according to Swiss National Bank data, funds parked by Indian individuals and enterprises, it fell by 5.8% in 2019. So you can see that the outflow of black money is now decreasing, right? Decreased by 5.8%. India has moved down 3 places to 77th rank. So this is actually a good thing in terms of money parked by citizens and enterprises with Swiss banks at the end of 2019. The UK happens to retain the top position as per the latest data, from the Switzerland's central bank, right? So UK accounts for 27% of the total foreign funds parked with Swiss banks. So that's also something that you should know. So here the right answer is 177th position. That is the rank of that is the position of India. Then we have a small finance bank will provide banking services to unserved and undeserved sections, small business units, right? 3 marginal farmers, or is it 4th, unorganized sector entities. So basically a small finance firm will provide services to all of them, unserved and deserved sections, small business units, marginal farmers, and unorganized sector entities. So that's the thing. Now the government has approved a scheme to improve. The next question says the government has approved a scheme to improve the liquidity positions of NBFCs, HFCs through a special purpose vehicle, right? Which of the following firms has set up a SPV SLS trust, right? Let's try and understand a few things. So recently, the central government approved the proposal to launch, a special liquidity scheme for non-banking financial companies, and housing financial companies, HFCs, to improve their liquidity position. Liquidity position matlab kya hai? They should have the money to lend. So that's what it means. So in the so HFCs, they are specialized NBFCs, and recently RBI came up with new definitions for HFCs. HFCs also, so to qualify as HFC or housing finance company, an NBFC must have 50% assets as housing loans, and 75% of which should be for individual home buyers, right? So HFCs are regulated by the RBI. So under this scheme, a special purpose vehicle would be set up to manage stressed asset funds of the NBFCs. SPV will also issue securities which would be guaranteed by the Government of India and purchased by the Reserve Bank of India, right? And the scheme will be administered by the Department of Financial Services as well, right? So here SBI Capital Markets has been which of the following firm has set up? So SBI Capital Market has set up an SPV SLS trust. So that is what SBI Capital Market is doing. What is SBI Capital Market? It's a wholly owned investment banking subsidiary of State Bank of India. So basically underwriting loans and taking up these kind of initiatives. These are the kind of things which SBI Capital Market does. It's an investment banking company. It is headquartered in Bombay, of course, right? So that's something you should know. And it also offers services in equity broking, research, security agency, and debenture, and all of these kind of things, right? So that's the thing. And if you want to know more, SBI Capital was set up in 1986, right? And the current managing director and chief executive officer of SBI Capital is Mr. Arun Mehta, right? So that's the thing. Let's look at the other options as well before we move on to the next question. Sbi, or Small Industrial Development Bank of India, that's a full form of Sbi, Small Industrial Development Bank of India. It is a development financial institutions in India. It is headquartered at Lucknow actually, and that's what it does. And its purpose is, serves as the principal financial institutions in the micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSME, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So that's what it does. So it functions, so it coordinates the functions of institutions engaged in similar activities, right? So that's what SIDBI does. So that's the thing. And currently the chairman and managing director of SIDBI is Mohammad Mustafa. Nexus Ventures Partners was founded in 2006, and it's the first India-US venture fund. And it was started by successful entrepreneurs in enterprise technology and consumer internet. Nexus has been a pioneer of investing in global technology products and technology-led businesses in India. Sequoia 2 is a venture capital firm and it is based out of America. It has its headquarters in California, right? And it mainly focuses on technology industry. It has backed companies that now control over $1.4 trillion and combined stock market value. So Sequoia manages multiple investment funds, including funds specific to India and Southeast Asia. It also manages funds in Israel and China as well. So, that's what it is. The founder of Sequoia Capital was Mr. Don Valenti. So that's a thing. Then we have Blue Ventures. Again, it's a science-led social enterprise that develops transformative approach for nurturing and sustaining locally led marine conservations, right? So the organization works in partnership with coastal communities in places where the ocean is vital to the culture and the economy. It was founded in 2003. Its headquarters is in London, United Kingdom, right? And the founders were Mr. Tom Savage, Dr. Alasdair Harris, Mr. Matthew Lenkar, and Dr. Robert Conway. But I think that's too much of information. You don't really need to know that much, right? So AI-enabled MyGov Corona Help Desk bagged 2 awards at COGEX 2020, which is held in Dash annually. So this MyGov, Corona Help Desk, it has been created by India actually, right? So it has been created by India. So it bagged 2 awards under categories of Best Innovation for COVID-19 Society and People's Choice COVID-19 Overall Winner, right? So that's what it has, achieved in. So basically, this event, COGEX 2020, it takes place in London annually. Every year it takes place in London. Then we have Central Marine Fisheries Institute, CMFRI. It has released a study report on annual marine fish landings in the country in 2019. Which state took the first position in this regard? I think this picture kind of explains everything. So you can see that Tamil Nadu tops the list with 7.75 landings in lakh tons, 7.75 lakh tons. It is followed by Gujarat, which has 7.49 lakh tons, and then Kerala, which has 5.44 lakh tons, then Karnataka 5.01 lakh tons, and so on and so forth, right? Goa has 0.33 lakh tons, Maharashtra has 2.01 lakh tons, Daman and Diu has about 1.12 lakh tons, West Bengal has about 2.49 lakh tons, Odisha has about 1.02 lakh tons, Andhra Pradesh around 2.59 lakh tons, Puducherry around 0.37 lakh tons. So that's the thing. And Central Marine Fisheries, if you may know, it was established by in 1947 under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers, right? And it's located in Tamil Nadu, right? It's a very difficult name. It's Thuthukudi, THOOTHUKUDI, Thuthukudi. And the current director of CMFRI is Dr. A. Gopalakrishnan. So that's the thing. So right answer here is Tamil Nadu. Who among the following is leader of the Cooperative Development Forum, CDF, that promotes cooperative movement in the country and boosts the rural economy, right? Is it CP Yadav? Is it US Avasthi, Dilip Bhai Sanghani, Suresh Prabhu, or is it Jyotendra Mehta? Let's try and understand all of these names, right? Basically, this CDF thing is headed by Mr. Suresh Prabhu, actually, who is the former union minister and is also the Rajya Sabha member, so that's the thing. So the CDF forum that is likely to be formally launched on July 24th, so which must have been done by now, the aim is to work towards promoting cooperative movements in the country and boost the rural economy, right? So Mr. Suresh Prabhu also happens to be the Sherpa of India for G20, right? So that's also a thing. Then we have Mr. C.P. Yadav or Mr. Chandrapal Singh Yadav. He's again an Indian politician, a Rajya Sabha member, right? And that's the thing. Then we have Mr. U.S. Avasthi. Is currently the managing director and CEO of Indian Farmers Fertilizers Cooperative, or IFCO, right? And then the next name that we have is Mr. Dilip Bhai Sanghani, right? Again, he's an Indian politician. He's also the cabinet minister of the Bharatiya Janata Party. He's the cabinet minister in the Gujarat state, right? So that's what he is, right? So that's the thing. And then we have Mr. Jyotindra Mehta, right? He has been elected as the president of the National Federation of Urban Cooperative Banks and Credit Societies Limited, NAFCUB, the apex body of urban cooperative banks and credit societies of the country, right? So that's who he is. Anyway, which among the following, or who among the following persons has recently won Poland's presidential elections, right? Is it Anna Solberg? Is it Jacinda Ardern? Is it Mark Rutte? Or do you think it is Andrzej Duda? Or is it Rafal Trzaskowski? Well, the right answer here is actually Andrzej Duda, whose full name is Andrzej Sebastian Duda. He is a Polish lawyer and a politician as well. And, he was also the incumbent president who beat his challenger, Mr. Rafal Trzaskowski. So the fifth named Rafal Trzaskowski he was the challenger to Mr. Andrzej Duda, right? So that's the thing. And Mr. Andrzej Duda, he won 51.2% of the total votes to once again become the president. So that's the thing. Right. Then we have the next name that we have on the list is Erna Solberg. Who's Erna Solberg? She is a Norwegian politician and she's serving as the Prime Minister of Norway since 2013. Right, and she's a leader of the Conservative Party since May 2004, and she's also named as Iron Erna, which was inspired by Margaret Thatcher being termed as the Iron Lady. So Margaret Thatcher was called Iron Lady, and Erna Solberg is called Iron Erna. Jacinda Ardern, we already know, she's the current New Zealand Prime Minister, right? So that's the thing. Then we have Mr. Mark Rutte. He's a Dutch politician and he's again serving as the Prime Minister. Not again, but he's a Dutch politician who's serving as the Prime Minister of Netherlands since 2010, right? And that's the thing. And as I said before, Rafal Trzaskowski, the fifth option, he was a challenger to Mr. Andrzej Duda, and currently he's also serving as the mayor of Warsaw. Warsaw happens to be the capital of Poland. He's also a political scientist specializing in European studies. So that's the thing. Okay, let's come to the next question. Which among the following persons has recently been appointed interim CEO of the Board of Controls for Cricket in India, BCCI? Right. Is it Shashank Manohar? Is it Sabah Karim? Is it Hemang Badani? Is it Hemang Amin? Or is it N. Srivasan? Well, it's actually Hemang Amin who has been appointed as the interim chief executive officer of BCCI. Shashank Manohar, again, is a very prominent name in the world of cricket. He's an Indian lawyer as well as cricket administrator. And he twice served as the president of the Board of Control for Cricket in India. And he served from 2008 to 2011, right? And from 2015 to November 2015 to May 2016 as well, right? He also served as the chairman of the International Cricket Council from November 2015 to March 2017. Syed Sabah Karim, he's the former cricketer, He was the right-handed batsman, and he was also a wicket keeper. He has also served, in the corporate sector as the communications division of Disco. Hemang Kamal Badani, the third name that you can see on the name Hemang Badani, the full name is Hemang Kamal Badani. He was again a former Indian cricketer, and he played tests as well as ODI. N. Srinivasan, very prominent name again in cricket. The full form is Narayana Swamy Srinivasan. He's actually an Indian industrialist. He was the former chairman of the International Cricket Council, ICC, and former president of BCCI as well. He was when he was there, he was a very powerful man, and so that's who he was. He's also the managing director of India Cements Limited, N. Srinivasan, right? So that's the thing. Then we have which company has recently acquired 7.73% stake in Reliance Industries owned Geo platforms for rupees 33,737 crores. Right answer here happens to be Google. Google acquired, and we all know about Google, Tencent, Apple, IBM, SoftBank. These are all multinational companies, right? Then we have NABARD. NABARD was established on the recommendations of the which committee? Which committee is it? So it is NABARD was established under the recommendations of the B. Sivaraman Committee, in 1982, right? So that's when it was established, right? The Malhotra Committee was responsible for the setup of the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, IRDA, Narasimha II Committee, he was tasked with the progress review and the implementation of the banking reform since 1992. On his recommendation, RBI withdrew from the 91-day Treasury bills market, and the Narasimhan Committee also, emphasized on, merging of the banks and creating 10 larger banks. That's what this thing that did, And Rangarajan Committee, or is also known as, this thing, Rangarajan Committee. Okay, Rangarajan Committee, it was constituted to review the methodology, for measurement of poverty presented, and it presented its report in 2014. So the report retained consumption expenditure estimates of NSSO, National Sample Survey of India organization, as the basis for determining poverty. On the basis of this, it pegged the total number of poor in India at 363 million, or 29.6% of the population. So about 30% of the population in India are poor. This is higher than 269.8 million poor people, or 21.9% pegged by the Suresh Tendulkar Committee. So Rangarajan Committee actually pegged more number of people to be poor in the country, right? We missed one, which is the Tarapur Committee. Tarapur Committee, was meant to study or observe, whether. So Tarapur Committee was meant to study the, implementation, whether it can be, if capital account convertibility can be, or full capital account convertibility can be implemented in the country. So what does full capital account convertibility essentially means? It means that any country which invests in India, right now the rules say that they cannot take out their investments immediately. Even the profit that they earn has to be kept in the country for some time, right? It cannot take out the entire profit. Only a part of the profit can be taken out. The original investment has to be kept in the country. This is actually a very important rule, because what happens usually is, the investors, what they do is, whenever there is an international crisis, they tend to, in order to, protect their profit levels or profit percentages. So let's say if an investor faces problems in the European markets, so what they do is they start selling in Asian markets in order to recover the losses that they have incurred in the European market. But with full capital account convertibility, all the FDI investments that come into the country, they cannot, with FDI being capped, and with the current policy, all the investments that come into the country, they cannot be taken out of the country immediately, right? And but then if full capital account convertibility is implemented, then the investors will have the freedom to take out whatever they have invested in the country. This can be good for investors. This may help us attract more investors as well, but then this can leave us vulnerable, and our economy can crash very easily should the investors pull out their money immediately. And this has actually happened with Thailand in 1996, when the investors actually pulled out their money, and Thailand's economy actually crashed. So this is something that we should know. Anyway, so NABARD was established on the recommendations of the Shivaraman Committee, which is option 4 in this case, right? So that's all, everybody. And so whenever you learn current affairs, please try and create a story behind that. Try and go a little deeper. And whenever you create a story, they tend to stick at the back of your head, and it is easier to remember, right? So I hope you like this session. With this, I'd like to end today's session. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.